Hello viewers, today let's discuss a very beautiful poem titled The Invitation, written by one of our famous Indian poets, Sri Aurobindo. The Invitation is a poem written by Sri Aurobindo during the years 1908 and 9 when he was in Alipur jail. It is an intense and uplifting collection of musings from a person who was a revolutionary fighting for the freedom of India, and at the same time he was an enlightened being. Here Sri Aurobindo gives voice to his own inner feelings by inventing a narrator, in fact a first person narrator to be precise. To put the poem in a nutshell, the poet narrator invites readers to attain an inner freedom that does not depend on any other beyond the self, and it is an invitation to embrace solitude and an invitation to experience free and peaceful existence. The poet gives an open invitation to anyone to go with him as he climbs up the hill to the moorland and the rough wind and the weather that was beating around him. He invites anyone to wade through the brook and tramp through the snow, because he dwells not in the petty circle of cities cramped by doors and walls, but where God exists in blue in the welkin. Though the wind and the storm rebel against him, he enjoys his solitude and made misadventure his friend. Therefore, he asks anyone to come and live with him freely in the wind-swept uplands. He is proud that he has the spirit of freedom and pride, and feels that he is the lord of tempest and mountain. And thus, one who joins him in his kingdom and walks by his side must be stark and a kinsman to danger. The Invitation was composed, as it was said, when he was in Alipur jail in the year 1908. Aurobindo calls his days in prison as a year's living in an ashram, or we can also call it as a hermitage. He describes attaining an inner freedom that does not depend on others, of embracing solitude and of tasting peace. The poem is better understood in the light of history. As readers, it becomes important that we contextualize the poem with the backdrop of the personal life of Sri Aurobindo and collective life of Indians in the bondage under the British rule. Sri Aurobindo had revelatory visions of Krishna when he was in Alipur jail, and instead of feeling jailed, he miraculously felt deep inner freedom and had the experience that the divine is manifest in one and all. It would not be wrong to say that this period was a turning point in Sri Aurobindo's life, and his life as a seer gradually unfurled to bloom after this testing time in prison. So after this brief background to the poem, it's time to know a little about the poet himself. Sri Aurobindo ranks among the greatest personalities of modern India. He is a multifaceted genius, a political revolutionary, social reformer, historian, educationist, philosopher, yogi, and above all, a man of letters. He is a journalist, editor, literary critic, linguist, translator, essayist, short story writer, dramatist, and more than all of these, a great poet. He falls into the exclusive category of poetseers who have achieved the highest realizations and have endeavored to share that experience with the rest of humankind. The teaching and very utterances that spiritual masters of this caliber offer to the world come from the most sublime realms of consciousness that human beings can attain to. Their poetry transcends the page to become mantra, an invocation to the transcendental consciousness. Sri Aurobindo, Indian nationalist, poet, philosopher and spiritual guru, was born in Calcutta on 15th August 1872. Sri Aurobindo spent his formative years in England studying at St. Paul's and Trinity College, where he excelled in the study of literature and the classics. In 1892, he returned to India, where he became closely involved in the Indian independence movement. He was a natural leader and